back to the Aethos build. I have the bike manual here. This is going to tell me how to assemble the steering tube over here. There's a little graphic here that shows the mechanical compatible parts, which some of these are, and then the electronic shifting only parts, which are plugs that go in the back. So some of these will not be for mechanical. I'm going to go ahead and filter those out right now. So let's see. All right, starting with the steering tube. So it's indicating well, I think this is correct. I'm clearly missing some pieces here. Since I need to have that, I think it's the stem piece here for the handlebars. I think I need that first in order to complete this assembly. So I'm gonna go order that. In an attempt to keep the bike from being damaged, I covered it in this thick cardstock type paper and some masking tape. I know that the more likely places it's going to be damaged, it's going to be around here, where it's protruding a little bit, but I think this will protect it from, grabbing it with greasy hands, and I'll uncover pieces as I need access to them. This is the Comp 12 degree stem from Specialized. I wasn't going to go with anything expensive because I don't know exactly what size, what angle I need. So I just went with whatever was going to work for now. And I think this will be a good fit. I also went with a handlebar that it's an aluminum alloy. I'm not going to go with anything expensive. Same reasoning, but I measured my shoulder blade width like you're supposed to for these, and I think it's gonna fit just fine. With this, at least with the stem, I can assemble the fork. Okay, so there's two kinds of spacers. There's these ones. They have this little bump, 3 little bumps on the inside. Those are indicated here, so those are the lower spacers. I guess these are called scalloped spacers based on the instructions, and this is a solid spacer up top. So this is the 5mm required spacer that it needs to have underneath the cap. So I need to put this one in at the top, and then these ones will go in at the bottom. I would have figured that out myself, but it's right here in the instructions. Now that I have this, I can actually put this together. Bearing will go in here, and now I can put this up in here. Expander plug. I shouldn't be putting that in right now because the expander plug is, I need to cut that off. Next is going to go the bearing and the little plastic piece inside the bearing. The headset cover. For now, I'll just do all the spacers. No reason not to. You can only cut this once. And maximum of, I think, 35mm of spacers under here, which is 1, 2, 3.5, so 35. And then I slip this guy on. It says it's right. Oh, I know. It's upside down. This shiny black part down here contacts the spacers, not this side. It does not go this way. So I need to mark and cut this now. Spacer thing in here that rotates separate to this guy, and it's not letting me stick this on here. That's what's messing me up. So it's not sitting evenly. It's kind of kinked up at the front. Oh, I see. Okay, so you take this thing out, +4, -4. This thing is what determines the tilt, I guess. I guess you flip it around if you want to rotate it. That's why the writing on this is up at, yeah, I think that's what's going on. All right, here is a torque screwdriver set. Inch pounds. It's going to require 45 inch pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and set that. It's always good to reset these to 0 torque, anything torque, because the springs that are in here that drive these, they're calibrated. So if you don't set them to 0 after you're done using them, it'll fall out of calibration. Okay, but let's see. All right, I think I have it this time. I thought I was finished with this, but I revisited the box that the stem came in, and there's some additional little offset plug things. I had the +4 in, it was in there by default. I realized that was sort of throwing off my whole spacer game. And here's a +2. I put the +0 in there, or the 0, as it were. And it sits in there pretty well, the way I have it cut. And I can set this right in there. That's perfect. I can set this right on top, and it looks good. Now that I've gone through the full process, at the bearings here, these were correct. Don't worry if they're unseated. Just make sure there's no crud when you assemble it. Put this cap on, put any spacers in, get the stem in place, and then cut it to the length that you need, accounting for this as well. Then you want to expand the plug to the recommended torque specs. You want to expand it so that it grips in there. This is not just to hold the cap in place. You're going to be using the cap to pull down on the stem before it's tightened, which is going to put preload and tighten everything together. If you tighten the stem first, you're going to negate the entire process. So I have this seated now. I went with the 0-degree plug here for the stem. If using one of the other plugs, because they have an offset to them, you need to use the cap that they come with, which has an offset hole. You can see it's not perfectly aligned in the center. Now the spacer goes on, then the cap. Now we put our bolt. Follow any recommended torque specs. Once this is pulled down, that puts that preload into the whole stem. Now we can tighten these up. Okay. Now this is on here. There is a max line here, so I don't want to go past that. Otherwise it starts wedging into this shape here and isn't designed for that. I'll have to change the angle of the seat because I don't lean that far forward. This concludes the head tube assembly and seat.